Hi everyone, and welcome to another edition of GCS Connect Leaders Series. We've got MK from LogiNext, Global VP Business Development for this very, very innovative AI and data management company doing automation, fast-growing, distributed global team, and someone I think can really help us in kind of being a global leader. So without further ado, here's MK. Welcome everyone to another session on the GCS Connect Leaders Series. We've got MK here from LogiNext. He's the VP of Business Development globally for LogiNext. And he can obviously take us through a little bit more about his business and find out more about him as well. MK's got 10 years experience in the industry, currently based in Mumbai, and it's been really good to speak to him. He's a very busy man, so we've waited a few weeks to pin him down. He travels around the world, so I say he's based in Mumbai, but he seems to be based everywhere all the time. So that will be a good thing to talk to him about his kind of global travels. But without further ado, hi MK, how are you?
Hey David, I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well today. Yes, I'm very well. It's a sunny day, but as I said, I was a little bit stressed coming onto the call today because all of my Citrix IT systems had completely wiped themselves as if I just started working at GCS. So yes, I was using our IT support systems this morning and probably weren't being quite as calm as I usually am.
Should we be talking about your first day at GCS? How are you feeling?
That's right. I feel, well, so far, I've been made to speak to IT and they've been quite helpful, but yeah, I'm just learning the ropes. So they've thrown me in the deep end, got me to do a podcast on my first day. So yeah. but yeah, do you want to just tell us a little bit about LogiNext, about your role, MK? Because there's a real kind of good growth story there, isn't it?
Absolutely, why not? So I'll probably start with introducing myself, right, and then I'll help understand who we are as an organization, right? So I lead the business development for the company globally, right? I'm responsible for the revenue function across the globe, based out of Mumbai right now, and I've been based in different locations as company group, right? As you know, we are a 6.5-year-old company, started in 2015, focused on automating the logistic operations or optimizing anything that is moving, right? With that goal, that focus, we started building our company, and today we are a 240 people plus strong team spread across around 11 countries, and we have got customer base in around 78 countries, processing more than a few billion data points every month right now, right? In terms of the location data points, processing approximately 8 to 10 million orders every day across the globe for our customers, right? So yes, we have come a long way, and we are the leaders in this space when it comes to logistic technology, optimization, automation, and analytics around logistics in the moment, right? I joined the company when I was actually planning to start my own.
Okay.
And that probably would have been a competition to use somehow, David, because it was in the HR technology. So I was actually starting a company into HR tech, and that's where I met Dhruv and Manisha, who were the co-founders of LogiNext, right? And from there, I think the entry in the industry, in logistics industry, was by chance, but then it became a passion. The kind of impact we have been able to make and the impact I'm able to see every day, not only in terms of the revenue benefits and the cost benefits for the companies, but to our environment, I really feel that we are not only helping companies to reduce their cost of movement, reduce their logistics cost, but reduce their carbon footprint significantly. Okay. And really helping companies achieve a zero or neutral carbon goals that they have set for themselves.
That's very interesting. When we talk to leaders, we talk a lot about the mission, right? Because obviously there's business making kind of money, but there's also the mission, and you mentioned that kind of carbon footprint, that sort of thing. Is that something you say you set out, this was an important thing, or something that has kind of grown alongside it? Did you set out with that mission?
That was always there in our minds when we started, but we knew that this is a goal which we cannot achieve until we scale to a point, right? So obviously we did not start tracking it in early days, but our last 3.5, 4 years, from the time we realized that we are processing enough data, enough location information, as well as enough orders every day in our system, and making a significant impact, we started tracking it, helping companies to realize what they are receiving and what they're getting, right? And also contributing to how they can do better around their carbon footprints, right? So this is one practice which is pretty close to my heart, because that's one improvement. When I'm meeting leaders across different customers, across different industries, the first thing I talk about is how through our platform, our customers has been able to reduce their carbon footprint significantly. The kind of numbers my data team has been churning out and then they have provided, those are significant. And the same kind of impact when a CEO sees they could make. A lot of time, it's not about just the numbers or the dollars they would save, but the impact they would make to for the cause as well.
Yeah, that's just really interesting, because I think we talk a lot about on this leader series about your kind of the vision for the business, and as a leader also your vision for your customers, like the kind of the mindset that you put your customers in, and it's really interesting to speak to someone on the business development side, because partly that challenge that you have is how to differentiate yourself, differentiate your brand, and get people to kind of buy into you when there's so much competition. And I guess that's a significant challenge that you've encountered as a leader when you're starting from scratch, in a very busy market. Obviously there's a huge demand, but it's busy, right? There's a lot of people out there. So what are the key kind of significant challenges that you've come across?
Honestly, when we started out, it was not a busy market, right? So we were some of the early adopters or early movers in this space, right? However, I think I find it difficult to define the significant challenge for a growing company sometimes. And when I look back, reason being the challenges which we faced 6 years back, now looks.
I guess the first challenge is that you still exist, right? So most companies don't make it through the year. So.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Those looks pretty small. Those looks right. So when I remember 6.5 years back, we were sitting in a room and the product was coming out, and the first challenge we had, and it looked significant at that time. That, hey, how can we close our one customer which is giving us $30,000 in ARR? Right? Yeah. We are getting most customers, SMBs, $10,000, $15,000 ARR, and I'm talking about 6 years back, right? How can we have a customer which gives $30,000 ARR? Yeah. From there, today we are closing $1 million, $500,000 ARR deals more often than not, maybe a few times a quarter, right? Yeah. So right. Now when I look back, that challenge doesn't look that significant, but at that time, that probably was one of the biggest challenges. We really had to work hard to get to that one. Right?
And so did you have the kind of the challenge of, as the deals went up, and I see this as well with our business, did you have challenge of, look, let's go for it, and obviously you wouldn't necessarily say you're unprepared, but let's keep challenging ourselves so that we can keep growing the business? So are there times when you signed off this deal and you're like, right, okay, how are we exactly going to deliver this?
Absolutely. I think one thing we always knew as an organization is that we are an enterprise first organization.
Sure.
Right. So we always knew that our customers are the companies who have resources, but they do not have technology or are dependent on the legacy systems. It's not that logistics tech systems or transport management systems has not been there. It's been around for 20-25 years now, right? There are companies like Oracle, SAP, who's been doing TMSs, providing TMSs, right? But those systems were not able to solve the problems the customer had. Those are becoming legacy systems, and that's where there was a need in the space in the market for building a platform, or transport automation platform, which is not only focuses on reducing the duplication of work, which earlier systems, the legacy systems did, but also to optimize, automate, and allow leaders to analyze the information and take better decisions, right?
Mm.
We proud ourselves to use machine learning and AI in everything which we do, right? The kind of innovation we bring, the kind of features we bring, the kind of insight we bring for our customers. And that's been a key differentiator. And as and that reflected, to be very honest, that reflected in our revenues as well as we grew, right? So earlier, as we started building the product, right, and we always believed in building our roadmap from customers' feedback. So our product roadmap was always included our customers' feedback. So as the product grew, we saw a demand, and we saw automatically the numbers and the minimums increasing from a $30,000 ARR being probably a big deal to a 100K looking a smaller deal. And then ourselves also, as a sales leader, for me, it's always important that my teams feel motivated and always challenging and looking for a new goal, right? You cannot keep celebrating the last quarter in sales. Every quarter is a new quarter, and you need to look forward. You need to look at what we can do next. What is the new goal? What's the new? You need to set a new checkpost and then achieve it and then move further, right? And that's where we continued. So from there, I think we have got a few $1 million deals in our KT, which are ARR. So we're pretty happy around that. But now we are looking at a multi-million-dollar deal.
Fantastic. And are those your kind of main priorities yourself for the year? Do you focus quite a lot on the numbers and the figures, or are there other things that you set as goals?
I think in terms of we from the product standpoint, we always had a single platform strategy, right? So we built a platform, and that platform had different modules. So our customers are able to use the platform without really requiring to purchase additional modules. So and that's one of the differentiators, to be very honest, right? What we realize, most companies in SaaS tries to sell a smaller piece to the customer, right? And then try to upsell with additional features and charge additional features also. But that defeats the purpose of a SaaS platform, right? When I'm going for a licensing model, we always were very clear that we want to keep it simple for our customers. When a customer buys our platform, they get the whole platform. They're able to access all the features, and anything coming new that comes as a complimentary to them. So they do not pay anything because they're already paying license cost, right? And that's we are SaaS. We are not charging them for a one-time set of costs to probably millions of dollars like SAP to implement it. We're charging a license cost, and that's how we build the product as well. So we continue to build new product, new features, and our customers continue to evolve along with our product. So we have customers who've been there with us for 4.5 years. We have seen their revenues becoming 4x, 5x on the delivery services, and that's a matter of proud for us, right? So while we are selling as well, that's what we look at. Hey, this is what we could do for a similar company, and these are the kind of numbers we could provide for our customers as well, and how we can help them implement the solution better, right? How can we help them include the best practices which we are seeing in other markets, other customers? And these are the differentiators around being able to benchmark the best practices, being able to get able to access a system which is evolving and growing along with the market, as the market around you changes and the environment around you changes in logistics, which is logistics as the industry is evolving probably faster than any other industry, or maybe second to the e-commerce industry today.
Yeah, and they're all very, very linked, aren't they? You know, logistics, and it's how we buy things. It's how we kind of go out there. And I guess that kind of links into kind of COVID. You know, we hope, fingers crossed, that it's kind of, you know, we've moved on from that. But did that really change your business? Did it heighten demand? Did it make it more difficult? I'm just really kind of interested, because obviously you're quite at the core of it, really, aren't you?
I would be lying if I say it did not, right? It did. Unfortunately, COVID was bad for I know it was bad for health, but to be very honest, for us, it was more of a boom, because we saw the demand for our product growing significantly, right? So we saw people, we saw the health hazards, and we really felt empathic around that, and we had our employees also and their families also to take care and to make sure that we are providing support to them during these tough times. At the same time, we saw significant growth for our product, right? Where more and more all of us got dependent on deliveries at home, right? Or receiving ordering groceries. So today, and I'll tell you a change, right? Up until 3 years back, in Asia, nobody had heard of, even in Europe, nobody heard of 10 minutes delivery, right? Today, 10 minutes delivery is a norm. It's an expectation, right?
Yeah.
So as you can see that how COVID has changed and evolved the customer requirements, and that's how us as a business to also evolve our product as well, right? How
Yeah.
we are able to help our customers not deliver on time only, not deliver in a scheduled manner only, but not in 30 minutes to be able to deliver in 10 minutes, right? How
Yeah.
we are able to make sure they are able to beat the customer experience or meet the customer experience every time, right? And while this is happening on the product side, on the sales side, it was also a big challenge because until March 2020, I was 80% of the time on the road along with my teams, right? So my
Yeah.
folks, most of the sales folks were traveling, they were meeting customers. Until that time, we had hardly closed a couple of deals which were above 150K and were closed without meeting the customer physically. But come 2020, and yeah, we were locked in our houses, we were locked in our offices at the locations where we were, right? And we had to unlearn what we had learned in last 4-5 years in terms of how do we sell large deals to customer, and learn how we now sell it to the customer, because a business cannot stop. You need to continue to evolve how you do sales as well. At the same time, I don't think it's just us as salespeople or the teams or the sales leader or my team got evolved. I think the customer also evolved. I know for a fact that many of the customers who were not ready to meet or not ready to meet online or virtually until 2020 closed $500,000 deal in 2021 without meeting physically, right? So it's I think it's both ends, both the sides of the table got evolved and realized that the physical meeting may or may not be necessary, and things cannot stop because of that, because most of these companies had to evolve. As we were facing challenges, most of our customer facing challenges of evolving and realizing that they need to be online first versus offline first, right? If it's a retail chain, it's a brick and mortar retailer, they needed to be able to deliver not only in the store but at the customer home as well, which they may not be preferring that time, or they may not have done it as significant with a significant volume as they were doing right now. So these changes were happening at the customer end, and then the only way for them to survive was to really adopt technology which can help them scale these models faster than ever, right? And that's where we came in. And I think we last 2 years has been pretty good for us in that regards. We continued our growth as we were growing 100% year on year. We probably are one of the few companies globally, as I know, who did not have any downsizing, did not really reduce salaries. There was any. We actually gave double-digit appraisals to all our team members. We did more towards their health, more towards their well-being, their family's well-being, to make sure that they are also taken care of while we grow.
That's great to hear. Yeah. I think that bit where you said it's the game changer that brought it in. I mean, we saw that a lot in recruitment. Would you have ever got a job where you hadn't met the person face to face and shook their hand or whatever? Like, now that's the standard norm. It's very much the type of standard. You have people that start that you have not necessarily met physically, and there are, we were talking a little bit before, and before we move on to this, it's like there are pros and cons to this, right? There are good sides and bad sides of that, but I definitely think it's a whole new world that we're dealing with, and that the best companies and the best leaders, as far as I can see it, have reacted the best to it. But when this first started happening, I mean, for you, maybe it's different to another business. You saw these changes, but then I guess you saw the opportunities. What did you do? Because you're the guy out there, right? Okay, I see this opportunity, I see this demand, so I'm going to go and get it. how did your attitude change?
I think, as you rightly mentioned, David, that this is a new era, right? And when I really look back, and to be very honest, I was thinking it over the last weekend only, that while my parents were working, right, we all lived in an era where the borders were closed. It was not that open, right? The global, what we call globalization right now was not a norm, right? The countries were still limiting, and the free world was not free access to goods, free access to, or easy access to goods was not there. While we were growing up, or I was growing up, I could see that there was an easy access to goods, right? The exports, and then privatization, and there are multiple changes happens across the globe in different countries, and then like China, India, both as countries also opened up economy, and you saw a free trade happening across the globe, right? The goods movements. You could order things from sitting here in India, you could order things from the US and the London and anywhere, and same here for you could probably sitting in London order things from China and receive it in maybe a 5 or 7 days time, right? So there was it, and then came COVID, right? And the post-COVID world hit one thing, which was not that. So you were having a free we saw an easy movement of goods. We saw an easy movement of companies growing, globalized. We never saw people movement being that easy. It was still restricted, right? You were still hiring people in where you are. So if I, as an organization, am setting up an office in Singapore, my people I could hire were only in Singapore. Right? And that's where this whole new era brought in, where the access to talent for all the organizations opened up, right? So it was more of this new area was free access or easy access to human resource or the talent for all the organization. Today, I know companies who have been hiring based out of Bay Area, hiring people in Bangalore, right? And they've been working remote, doing the same work what an engineer is doing in San Francisco, right? Or the same way, somebody hiring maybe a product manager based out of Ukraine or in Europe, based out of, and then the companies had an easy and a better access to the resources. But at the same time, it brought in a lot of challenges, right? So managing remote resources, managing people across, building distributed teams are not easy. Being able to drive the same culture values which you bring in is never easy in distributed teams, right? And these are challenges which we tried to focus a lot on while we were building as well. As why we started building a hybrid culture. We started hiring people who may or may not be always available in the office, right? As we used to. So we started catering to those challenges. We built we decided to be looked upon, and we looked at like what are the key differences between a hybrid or an offsite resource or a distributed team. While I have few people sitting out of Dubai, few are in Singapore, few in Malaysia, few in New York, few in Chicago. So when you have such a distributed team, right, which may or may not be working from office always, right? The key challenges when you see is like availability, and we were defining that, and we did a brainstorming around that. That while we are entering in this new era, how do we handle it? How do we grow, and how do we make sure that it doesn't impact what we have preserved for the last 5 years as a culture, right? What we have built as our organization now, and that's where the three differences which we could identify were availability, belongingness to the company, right, and the culture. These are three key differences which we could think of. Availability, because when you are on site, your teams are always available during working hours, right? Versus off time, the offshore, there may be time differences which you need to coordinate and multiple things. Belongingness to the company, like in-house teams are easily feel connected to the company because they're coming to the same physical location every day, right? They're traveling the physical distance. But somebody sitting in a remote location may not be able to feel the same belongingness to the company because they're working. Maybe there is one resource working based out of Malaysia or Ukraine. So they wouldn't feel that the same thing. And there is an extra effort required from the company and the leader to be able to make that difference and bring them in the fold, right? At the same time, the culture of the organization as you distribute, you do need to identify the cultural differences also. It's just not because when you're building the team in a one location, it's more or less the same culture which you have across the people. And so it's easy to understand their culture, understand the culture, build the company culture around it, and then build a good culture which everybody can grow in, right?
Yeah.
But when you start building distributed teams, the cultures, everybody may have there might be a lot of cultural differences which you need to address to, which you need to understand, and then accordingly mold the company's culture. Accordingly, also provide enough trainings to different teams to be able to accept different cultures, right? Not everybody is so. Yes, I've been lucky in that regards. Many of the salespeople are lucky in that regards to be able to on the road so many times, meeting different people from different cultures, right? And understanding. So it builds an understanding of different cultures. It builds a respect for different cultures. But many of the time, when it comes to the teams who doesn't travel as much as you require, and does not need to travel for their roles, for them it could be a change. From them to identify a different culture, to be able to identify a different culture, to gel with a different culture could be a change. And we've focused on building that training modules around those for people who were hiring remote as well as in the team.
To build that culture and build that kind of centrality, like this is the platform we go from, but understanding that you have to have it different locations. How do you, just out of interest, because one of the, I know how much you have traveled in the last few months, MK, because we've been speaking, obviously been in different places, and I think I've spoken to in various coffee shops around the world. How do you deal with the time zone? Because this is something I find quite difficult. You're relatively central, I guess, thinking about where your business is operating. But how do you deal with that? Because it's quite a logistical challenge, isn't it? I've got businesses, people working in India, people working in Europe, people working in the US, the UK, Ireland. How do you deal with it?
Honestly, it is taxing to some points, right? Because many a time when you are in a global role, your days can start as early as 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. because you're talking to a customer in Singapore or Japan, right? And it can end at 1 a.m. in the night because you are probably having a team meeting in Francisco, right?
Yeah.
So it can be, but I think it's the balance lies in planning the meetings and is very important. So one of the things which I realized that when you have a distributed team, when you have teams which are spread across different locations, ad hoc meetings is not the way to go. Ad hoc engagements are not the way to go, right? You have to always plan things. So should be able to, because yes, everybody can stretch few days for 13 hours, 15 hours and do things. But if you're doing it every day, you probably would end up burning yourself, and the teams would also, right? So I definitely tell my teams also not to do that, right? And so I always tell them that, hey, plan your day better. If you think that your mornings are, and then accordingly, like if your mornings are heavy, then keep your evenings light, right? If you have meetings early in the morning, if you're starting early, so you need to plan your day in a way that you can manage responsibilities across which you have in different part of the globe. At the same time, I think one of another point which I realized while I was in this doing travel and everything is that hiring a local team lead for different areas, wherever, obviously not possible across, right? If you have a very small team in some areas, you may not be able to, but as the team grows in a particular area, having a team lead or a local manager definitely helps.
Yeah, that's
that
what
reduces that opens up your bandwidth to a certain point, because you can't be everywhere, right? And as a leader, you shouldn't be trying to be everywhere, because you do need your own time to be able to really think strategically, think a larger picture, right? You always do. Otherwise, you would, if you're running around everywhere and meeting everyone and talking to everyone, you probably would end up spending most of your time in transactional aspects. So you need to have the time where you can think strategically, cut off with everything which is happening around, and think of larger picture. And that's where having
this kind of window element, I find, someone, if everyone's kind of coming to yourself as a leader and you're dealing with, like you said, someone in San Francisco, then there's a window, even if you're like staying up until the end of the night, there's a window which they can speak to you. So therefore, if you don't give them the independence of thought, you've given them the culture, you've given them the this is what LogiNext is about, but if you don't give them the independence of thought, then they're just relying on you to come back to them in 24 hours time, which just never works, does it? You can't run a business like that, can you?
Absolutely. See, in a distributed business, and you do need to, as you give targets, as you give accountability, right? You do need to give the rights to be able to take a call and decisions, right? Because
yeah, right.
you probably would be, you and I probably would be sleeping when they're sitting in a customer call and meeting, right, and trying to close it at that point, right? You don't want that to, they cannot wait for you and I to get up and really approve something. So they should be able to take that call and being able to close their business, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's important to be able to provide that authority as well, and the decision-making capabilities as well, while the accountability and the quotas and targets are being given for them to be able to really run things.
So you mentioned there about the kind of hiring side of things. Obviously, how do you see kind of the talent working within a distributed office? You know, do you find it easier to hire at this moment in time, or is it tougher than maybe it was 3-4 years ago?
It is tougher. Okay. I think it is tougher. It is tougher across the globe for every leader. I don't think I have spoken to a single leader in last 12 months or 18 months who has said that, hey, hiring is been a cakewalk. Yeah. I think, and I think as a leader of a growing organization, to be very honest, I do not have much of the responsibility now, but hiring and maintaining the culture, because the rest of the things, once it is automated and put into the process, happens as we grow automatically. Teams knows what to be done. Sales team knows how to close it, what to do it. Right? You get involved some of the time, but those are more of automated processes. The only thing which we need to focus on, how do you hire, enable, how you hire best talent across the globe, how you enable them, and at the same time, how do you obviously retain them and then maintain the culture what you have brought to build in years, in last 6 years.
Yeah, and I think definitely we see that with clients, is that, you know, it's important to kind of reap the benefits of maybe being a distributed sales force, but also making sure that you're hiring people with the culture, with, like you said, the belongingness, that you feel will kind of match, so that you can give them more independence and thought, because you feel you're on the same wavelength, right? They buy into the same things as you, like you mentioned about the carbon side of things and the kind of the message. You know, you've got to find those right people, haven't you?
No, it's very important. I've learned my lessons, trust me. So, right, so around, I still remember probably a quick story around that. Right? I still remember 3 years back, we hired a gentleman in the US, right, for sales, and I've been traveling a lot, and I couldn't speak with him 2 weeks. And one of my team, human resource team and HR team, just spoke with him for a touch base, and the person felt that, hey, am I not doing a good job, right? Yeah. Or is there something wrong? It's just setting those expectations. I realized that if I'm not over communicating, I'm actually creating an issue. So over communicating, when we are having distributed teams, please over communicate. It's very, very important, right? Reiterating the same thing 5 times doesn't make a difference. It's okay. It's okay sometimes to repeat the same things till the time it seeps in, everybody understands that, and at the same time, setting those expectations and setting that understanding that, hey, if I'm not able to we are not connecting more often than you're used to, because a lot of time when the people come in immediately, you're connecting a lot because you're trying to bring them in the fold, right? But then once they are more independent, you try to focus on something else. But if you've not set the expectation that that's how it would be, right? Yeah. They start feeling that something is not right. Am I not doing something right? Right? So you need to set those expectations. And I realized, and I learned that lesson there, then that, hey, I do need to maybe have communicated, then set those expectations that, hey, you are now run the show, connect, and how we connect on the weekly and the quarterly meetings and the half-yearly or monthly meetings, and that with the structure we follow. But yes.
And so to kind of finish up, you know, MK, you know, with regards to kind of expanding your business in the next year, you know, what are the kind of key things that you're thinking about, that you're kind of worrying about? What are the key things on your to-do list that keep you up at night, even though I know you don't rarely sleep because you're in this global role, right? So.
Yeah, so I think, David, what is the the key thing which is there as a focus, you would love that. It's hiring.
Yeah.
So yes, that's definitely is one of the key point, right? As we are, our growth has been 100% year on year, as I mentioned, right? And we are seeing the similar and the better growth every quarter. And as we grow, having enough people to be able to manage and to grow, or to manage the responsibilities, manage the load which we receive in terms of opportunities, in terms of management, account management, and everything, is continuously growing. So one of the key thing which I'm looking forward to, or focusing on in this year, is to be able to build the team and hire more than 4 teams and more people across different geographies.
Well, as you know, like you said, MK, that's what we're there to help those solutions and that sort of thing. And it's not the key thing that comes out of this podcast. You know, it's more about the kind of conversation. But I think when you think about, you know, businesses with fast growth and businesses doing really exciting things, then I would definitely say that LogiNext is a great choice to join. So yeah, I hope we can work together to find some people to really kind of help accelerate that growth. But thanks very much for your time, MK. It's been a great chat, and I wish you well in the 12 months ahead. I'm sure it'll be another exciting and successful year.
Hey, thank you, David. It was good to speak with you, like always, right? And thank you for having me here.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.